Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of my tutorial video channel. This is part 2 of interaction between demand and supply and determination of equilibrium price and quantity. In part 1, I have discussed how the interaction between demand and supply determines the equilibrium price and quantity in the market and I have drawn 9 diagrams to explain and illustrate how the interaction takes place. And I promised in the earlier video, that is in part 1, that I will discuss 10 different scenarios where we will see the interaction between demand and supply in different circumstances are determining the equilibrium price and quantity in the market. Maybe I have to make 5-6 parts, and in this part I shall discuss 3 scenarios. So scenario number 1, a technological breakthrough has been achieved in computer manufacturing. A technological breakthrough has been achieved in computer manufacturing. What is the impact? What is the impact on the computer market? Right? A technological breakthrough has taken place in computer manufacturing process. So what will be its impact on computer market? Impact in terms of interaction between demand and supply. Now, technological breakthrough can result in either of 2 things. Either there will be cost reduction, so cost of production will fall, or there will be cost reduction as well as qualitative improvement of the product. And I shall discuss both the scenarios. So, technological breakthrough can result in either cost reduction or cost reduction plus qualitative improvement. And I am discussing one by one. Please look at the whiteboard, how I am drawing the diagrams and how I am explaining the things. First, we consider that a technological breakthrough has resulted in cost reduction, so cost of production has fallen. And remember one thing, whenever you analyze and discuss this kind of situations, the first thing that should cross your mind is what is impacting on which side of the market. That is, whether the demand side is being impacted by the incident or the supply side is being impacted. And accordingly, you will do the analysis and accordingly you will draw the diagram and come to the conclusion. Okay? And another thing you should remember, that you start with the assumption that the market is in equilibrium. Okay, then you incorporate the change. So on x-axis we measure quantity and on y-axis we measure price. And let D sub 0 and S sub 0 be the demand and supply curve in the computer market. We are considering cost reduction only. Now, as the cost of production of computer has fallen, so it will impact the supply side of the market. Why? Because as cost of production has fallen, the producer will be able to supply more of the commodities as at equal price or at lesser price. Correct? But there won't be any change in the demand side. The demand side won't be impacted by fall in cost of production due to technological breakthrough. Correct? So let the original demand curve be D sub 0 and original supply curve be S sub 0, and let the intersect at point M. So equilibrium price and quantity are P sub 0 and Q sub 0. Now as a result of fall in cost of production, supply will increase, so the supply curve S sub 0 will shift parallelly rightward. Let this be the new supply curve. Let this be S1, S sub 1. There is no change in the demand side, there is no impact on the demand side, so the demand curve will stay as it is. There won't be any change in the demand curve. So the original demand curve D sub 0 and the new supply curve S sub 1 intersect at point N. Let this point be N. So new equilibrium price and quantity are P sub 1 and Q sub 1. Okay. So what is the net impact? Price is falling, so P comes down and quantity is increasing, Q goes up if there is only cost reduction as a result of technological improvement or breakthrough. Next, we consider cost reduction plus qualitative improvement. I am writing in short due to lack of space. Again, we start with the assumption that the market is in equilibrium. On x-axis we measure quantity and on y-axis we measure price. Let this be the demand curve and supply curve respectively. That is D0, D sub 0 is the demand curve and S sub 0 is the supply curve. Let they intersect at point, say, R. So equilibrium price and quantity are P sub 0 and Q sub 0. Now, technological breakthrough has resulted in cost reduction as well as improvement in quality. So here the impact will be on the demand side and the supply side both. Correct? Supply side will be impacted because cost of production has fallen, and demand side will be impacted because there has been qualitative improvement in the product. Let the new supply curve be this one. S1 is the new supply curve. And D sub 1 be the new demand curve. So demand has shifted parallelly rightward due to increase in demand, which is a result of improvement in the quality of the product. and supply curve has shifted rightward parallelly as cost of production has fallen, and the new demand curve and the new supply curve intersect at this point. Say this point be S. So equilibrium quantity becomes, say, Q sub 1, and equilibrium price remains P sub 0. Why there has not been any change in price? There has not been any change in price because the change in supply has been equal to change in demand. But this is not necessary. This may happen, this may not happen. Depends upon the relative strength of the change. Suppose D sub 0 and S sub 0 are the demand and supply curve respectively, and P sub 0 and Q sub 0 are equilibrium price and quantity respectively. Now S sub 0 is shifting rightward. Let this be sub 1, the new supply curve. It has shifted rightward as cost of production has fallen, and the demand, let the new demand curve be this one. This D sub 1 is the new demand curve. So the new demand curve D sub 1 and new supply curve S sub 1 intersect at this point. Say this point is T and this is U. So at point U, D sub 1 and S sub 1 intersect. So equilibrium price and quantity will be P sub 1 and Q sub 1 respectively. So here the equilibrium price as well as equilibrium quantity have increased. So here the impact is price same, quantity increasing, and here price is increasing as well as quantity is increasing. Both are increasing. So this is the impact of technological breakthrough on the computer market in terms of demand and supply and equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Now scenario 1 has been explained totally. Now I shall start scenario 2, and for that I have to erase the writings on the whiteboard. I have no way. I have to erase as I don't have much space. Now we start scenario 2. What is scenario 2? Coffee harvest has been badly hurt due to bad weather. Coffee harvest has been badly hurt due to bad weather. What will be the impact what will be the impact on coffee market, on the coffee market and the tea market? Correct. So in a country, coffee production has fallen due to bad weather, and the question is, what will be the impact on the coffee market and tea market? As I have said you, that the first thing that should cross your mind is which side of the market is being affected. In coffee market, supply will fall as production has fallen. As a result, price of coffee will increase. There won't be any change in the demand side. That means, as a result of fall in coffee production, supply of coffee will come down, and the demand side of the market will not be affected at all. Only the supply side is being affected. And what about tea market? I am coming later on. First, consider coffee market. Again, start with the assumption that the market is in equilibrium. On x-axis we measure quantity and on y-axis we measure price. Let D sub 0 and S sub 0 be the original demand curve and supply curve respectively. So equilibrium price and quantity are P sub 0 and Q sub 0. D sub 0 and S sub 0 intersect late at point C. Now, as a result of bad cultivation of coffee, supply of coffee will fall. So the supply curve of coffee will shift parallelly leftward. So S sub 0 will parallelly shift leftward to say S sub 1. There won't be any change in demand. The demand curve will remain at D sub 0, and the demand curve, original demand curve and the new supply curve intersect say at point D. So the price becomes P sub 1 and equilibrium quantity becomes Q sub 1. So the impact is price is going up, price is increasing and quantity is falling. Correct? Now come to tea market. We know that coffee and tea are substitute commodities, and in theory of demand we have learned that when two commodities are substitutes, then increase in price of one commodity will lead to increase in demand of the other commodity, and decrease in price of one commodity will lead to decrease in demand for the substitute commodity, and tea and coffee are substitutes. So as a result of increase in price of coffee, demand for tea will rise. We start with the assumption that the tea market is in equilibrium. Sorry, Q and P. On x-axis we measure quantity and on y-axis we measure price. Let these be the demand curve and supply curve respectively, D sub 0 and C sub 0, and both intersect say at point E. So P sub 0 is the equilibrium price and Q sub 0 is the equilibrium quantity. Now, as a result of increase in the price of coffee, demand for tea will increase. So the demand curve D sub 0 will shift parallelly rightward. Say this is D sub 1, the new demand curve. So D sub 1 and S sub 1 intersect late at point F. So the new equilibrium price and quantity are P sub 1, Q sub 1. Correct? As a result of increase in price of coffee, demand for tea will increase and there is no impact on the supply side of the tea market, so there won't be any change in the supply curve. The supply curve will remain at S sub 0. Only the demand will increase because price of coffee has increased. So the demand curve will shift parallelly rightward from D sub 0 to D sub 1, and D sub 1 and S sub 0, the original supply curve, intersect at point F. So equilibrium price is P sub 1 and equilibrium quantity is Q sub 1. So the net impact is price rising, that is equilibrium price is rising, increasing, and equilibrium quantity is also increasing. This is the net impact on tea market. Okay. As a result of bad cultivation of coffee, supply of coffee has fallen. So price of coffee has increased. The supply curve has shifted leftward parallelly. So price of coffee has increased from P sub 0 to P sub 1, and quantity supplied decreased from Q sub 0 to Q sub 1. And as a result of increase in price of coffee, demand for tea will rise, that because both are substitute commodities. They are substitute commodities. So in the tea market, demand curve will shift parallelly rightward. There won't be any change in supply curve. The supply curve will remain at S sub 0 because supply side is not affected. So D sub 1 and S sub 0, the original supply curve, intersect at point F. So new equilibrium price is P sub 1 and new equilibrium quantity is Q sub 1. So the net impact is price and quantity both are increasing. This is all about case 2, that is scenario 2. Now again I have to erase the writings because I have to show you the scenario 3. I don't have any other way than erase it. Yeah. So we will start scenario 3. Scenario 3. What is that? Grape cultivation. Grape cultivation has been badly disrupted due to bad weather. This is part 1 of this scenario 2. And the minimum legal drinking age, that is drinking of alcohol, drinking age, the minimum legal drinking age in the country is reduced by the government by 3 years. So 2 things are happening in scenario 2. Number 1, grape production is falling and the government reduces the minimum legal age of drinking. Now we must remember that grape is singularly the most important ingredient in making of wine. So when wine production is when grape production is hard, grape cultivation is hard, So there will be disruption in the supply of grape to the wine industry. So supply of wine will also fall, because the wine producers will not find the required amount of grape from the grape sellers. Correct? We are explaining diagrammatically one by one. It is first grape market, then wine market. Again, as I have said you, that the first thing that should cross your mind is which side of the market is being impacted. In grape market, grape production has fallen, so supply of grape will fall. As a result, price of grape will rise. That is, the supply side is impacted. There won't be any change in the demand curve, because demand side remains unaffected. And what about wine market? In wine market, supply of wine will fall, because there is scarcity of one, the most important ingredient in making wine. But that is, the supply side is being impacted. But at the same time, government has taken a decision to reduce the minimum legal drinking age by 4 years or 3 years. By 3 years. This means demand for wine will increase. So in the wine market, both the supply side and demand side are being impacted by fall in production of grapes. Correct? Let us explain diagrammatically. This is scenario 3. On x-axis we measure quantity and on y-axis we measure price. Let D sub 0 is the original demand curve and S sub 0 is the original supply curve. The market is in equilibrium. At this point, let this be point L. So P sub 0 is the equilibrium price and Q sub 0 is the equilibrium quantity. Now, as a result of bad cultivation, supply of grape will fall. So the supply curve S sub 0 will shift parallelly leftward. Let this be the new supply curve, S sub 1. The new supply curve S sub 1 and the original demand curve D sub 0 intersect at this point. At this point. So P sub 1 is the new equilibrium price and Q sub 1 is the new equilibrium quantity. So what is the impact? Equilibrium price is increasing, equilibrium quantity is falling. Now come to wine market. On x-axis we measure quantity and on y-axis we measure price. Let D sub 0 and S sub 0 be the demand curve and supply curve respectively, and let they intersect at point S. So the equilibrium price is P sub 0 and equilibrium quantity is Q sub 0. Now supply curve is shifting leftward. As a result of falling supply of one input, production of wine has fallen. So new supply curve is S sub 1. At the same time, due to reduction in the minimum legal age of drinking alcohol, demand for wine will increase. So the demand curve will also shift rightward. Let this be the new demand curve. D sub 1 is the new demand curve. So D1, D sub 1 and S sub 1 intersect late at point T. So new price is P sub 1, whereas equilibrium quantity remains same. So here price is increasing, quantity same. But it is not necessary that this will happen. This may not happen also. That is, there will be change in price as well as in quantity. And I am showing that in this diagram. Q and P on x-axis and y-axis respectively. D sub 0 is the demand curve, S sub 0 is the supply curve. Let the intersect at point T as I have done here. I am doing the same thing with a little change. And P sub 0 is the equilibrium price and Q sub 0 is the equilibrium quantity. S has fallen. That is, supply has fallen. So supply curve S sub 0 shifts parallel leftward to S sub 1. And let this be the demand curve. Let this be D sub 1. So the demand curve is shifting from D sub 0 to D sub 1 and the supply curve is shifting from S sub 0 to S sub 1. And D1, D sub 1 and S sub 1 intersect at point U. Let this be point U. So the new equilibrium price and quantity are P sub 1 and Q sub 1 respectively. So here you see that price has increased as well as quantity has increased. Why? As I have said a little bit earlier, this depends upon the relative strength of the change. Okay. So these are the three scenarios I have discussed in this video. This is part 2 and I shall make some more parts to incorporate the remaining 7 videos, 7 scenarios. As I have promised to you that I will show you 10 different scenarios and that will cover all the scenarios you may expect in your exam or in your career as a professional. I will discuss all the scenarios. And here I have discussed 3 scenarios in part 2 and maybe it will be part 5 or part 6 within which I shall cover all the scenarios. So this is enough for this video. So far so good. I believe this video is well understood by you. That is what I have said and what I have drawn in the whiteboard. Still, should you have any doubt in your mind, if you think any particular point needs further explanation or clarification, please feel comfortable to let me know through the comment section. I shall be more than glad to reply to your all the queries. And if you think this video is beneficial, is useful for you, please do share the video with your friends, brothers and sisters, so that they can also get benefit by watching this video. And finally, thank you for your precious time and stay well and goodbye.